Okay, so we're starting on the 9.3 GM rear end build today. First thing I'm going to do is give it a good cleaning. As you can see, it's got a lot of dirt and rust and whatever built up on it, and I'm messing up this good wire brush doing this, so I'm going to have to clean it. I'll go get another wire brush. Then I got her hanging on this 2x6 right here so it won't roll over onto sawhorses. But once again, another good use for your sawhorses. But what I got to do, let me get moved in here. What I got to do is go all over it and give it a good scrubbing. And what we want to do is get as much of the gunk off the outside of it as we can before we take it apart. And the reason we want to do that is it cuts down on the amount of junk on the inside of it that we're going to have to clean. Now I got to steam clean the inside anyway, pressure wash it. I'll probably take it down and let my buddy hit it with his steam Jenny, and then I'll clean it out with brake clean and whatever else it takes to break loose what might be inside of it. We got all the parts in for it, so I'll do a little video introducing them and where we got them from. The guy that sells the parts for it also makes a very nice book. If you've got one of these and never done one before, he makes a very nice book on how to rebuild them and break down the part numbers and the variances in them and all that. Just like some of the good books that are out there on the 9-inch Ford rear ends. He's got a real good one for these BOK rear ends. So I won't bore you with all the details. I got a lot of scraping and scrubbing to do. And then we'll see what we can do about getting the brake drums off. As I said in the other video, we're going to try to put Chevy pattern on it. And I got a 57 Chevy backing plate that the owner loaned me, borrowed from a friend of his. I need to see if it'll line up with the bolts back here on these backing plates. And if it will, well, that's half the battle. So stay tuned, more coming. So now that I've got it wire brushed as clean as I can get it, and it's still got another chunk right here to get out, I gotta get the brake line off before I can clean in there. And over here it's come pretty clean. I got all the heavy off. And as you can see, that's quite a bit of dirt laying down there. Next step, this drum's frozen, and I'm pretty sure it's just screwed to the pads on this side or the shoes on this side. So I got to get these two bolts out and then get this drum off. We're going to start there. Now this is some of that engineering that old cars have that most modern cars don't. You got bolts actually keeping in. That one came loose. And so did that one. They actually got bolts keeping the brake drum on. And that was a safety feature in case the wheel came off. It also made it easier, and I got to get that bolt that just rolled under that toolbox. It also made it easier to change the wheel when you had a flat, change the tire, without the drum all falling off. And I know this one's froze. And I also need to scrape around here and clean up this hub. This will give us room. Some of this rust off. This will help it come off. Now I'm going to try to give it a tap or two and see if it'll move. If it won't, I'm going to have to get the torch and heat it up. Last thing I want to do is break this drum. So I'll tap my way around, see if it moves. Yeah, it's not going to move. Now let's go around the back here. Here's your pins holding in your brakes. I can pull them up and cut them off if we need to. But let's try to get it loose first before we cut anything. So I don't know how much of this stuff is hard to get for these. Okay, here we go. We're going to put a little heat on it. Now this is one of those cases that I've learned over the years that it's better to use these little benzene torches than it is to fire up the acetylene. See that little pickup? That was the drum popping loose from the axle. Nope, she's still stuck. Okay, so I got it moving, and it's about ready to come off, as you can see. And I've just been gently working my way around. The brass hammer wasn't hitting it quite hard enough, so I got this light little claw hammer. And the trick is to just get a little pressure on it. And if you can pull on this dull, tip's ruined on it anyway, 3/8 boring bit, wood boring bit, and not bend it, you're not pulling too hard on this backing plate. And that's the important part not to mess up. And I'm just tapping lightly. Like I said, I didn't want to bore y'all, so I didn't show you all the details. But basically, this is all I've done since I heated it up with the torch. Is I just been tapping lightly and working my way around it. And there I'm past the axle here. And I'm starting to come past the axle up here. So now that I've got it to move out a little bit, I can get in here. And there it comes. And again, you know, I don't know how long this thing laid outside before my friend got it and put it in the top of his building. But the shoes were shot on it at some point and had dug into it. You can see the grooves. Plus it's been sitting all this time, but that's still a usable brake drum probably. Now what I got to do is, this works just like any other drum brake setup. Since drum brakes went hydraulic, the basic function has not changed. So the trick here is going to be to see, let's see here, a gasket on your brake drum. That's just the kind of stuff you don't see anymore. And that one's completely dry rotting. But I will get this taken apart, and then we can see if the 57 backing plate will bolt to this flange, which it should. And if it will, that'll let us put a 57 drum on here. So the drum's out of the way. Now I got to go ahead and get this disassembled, get the shoe assembly off. Excuse me. That's where these come in. So hopefully, all right, there goes that one. And we'll do one over here. There we go. And the inside ones are probably rusted to the pins. It won't move. Yeah, that one's okay. It fell down on the floor. That's not a big deal. We'll get it out of there. This one is obviously stuck. So, yeah, it just kind of crumbled. And then everything else is just basically your standard brake setup. And since the emergency brake cable's cut, I'll just go ahead and unbolt these 2 bolts right here, which will let it come out. Here's your crossbar. Now, when you're taking apart these old shoes and all like this, you don't want to lose this stuff, because some of it might be harder to get than you think. And even though you may be going modern, there may be somebody out there looking for this stuff. So if nothing else, you can get some of your investment back to help buy some of the parts you need for your project. And there the bearings turning. So from here, it's just a basic pull the axle out, take the nuts off, pull the axle out. Now this is one of these places where a 6-point wrench is going to be critical. See these little lines? These are self-locking nuts. You put a 12-point on that and all it's going to do is slip on it. So you need a 6-point. 6-point. And as you can see, this has been rounded off at some point. And that's as far as it's going. So let me get a little equalizer here, and we'll do the primitive Pete method, which is not the recommended way to break a bolt loose, but it's what you got to do in some cases. Here it goes. Alright, like most self-locking nuts, this thing's going to come off however much turn you can get on it at a time. And I got to do 4 of these. So let me get them loose and we'll come back. Here you go. With them out, you can really see the cuts for the self-lockers. And they come off hard all the way. Okay, so as you can see, I've got it loose, but I got 2 little problems. One, they've been in here so long I'm going to have to use the slide hammer to get them off. Problem number 2 is, see that little L in the end of those lug studs? It tells us those are left-hand thread. And I don't have any left-hand thread lug nuts. So I got to call my friend to see if he's got some left-hand lug studs. If he does, we're great. If not, lug nuts. Then I got to try to find some if he doesn't. Or I got to rig a clamp up on this thing somehow, gear puller, so I can get a hold of it with the slide hammer and get the axle out. But that's all that's left to do is get the axle out and get this backing plate off. And then we can test fit the Chevy backing plate to it. And we'll see what happens there. So, it's like a good stopping point for tonight. And my voice is getting tired again. So as always, practice your skills, learn a new one. Either way, turn it into craftsmanship. You never know how far it'll take you. So until next time, this has been Fab Race Mod Repeat. Have a great day.